Hello and welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 32A.
I'm Cam and this is Julie. This week's Torah portion is Terumah. It's from Exodus 25 to Exodus, basically the end of 27. Last week we have where the wedding. Remember we ended with Exodus 24, which is the wedding ceremony between Israel and the Lord. So what happens after you get married? What do? You and your wife go to your new house.
Yeah.
All right, so they're going to dwell together. So there needs to be a middle ground. That middle ground needs to be safe enough for Israel to approach without getting fried, okay?
Yeah.
Because he's holy, and he calls us to be holy like him so that we don't get fried, we don't get burned, because he is a consuming fire.
Right.
So what he's doing in 25, what we see in 25, 26, and 27 this week, is him setting up the house in which he wants to dwell with them. Not just with them, in them. There's so many layers in this week's. You can read over it and just be like, oh, blah, 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 measurements, whatever. You can read over it and go a little bit further in and go, well, these are what these measurements and each of the materials mean. And then you can go even deeper and then look at the spiritual aspect, and you can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's so many layers. We don't have time to do all that. So what we'll do is we'll just touch on a few of the layers and see what we can get out of it in the next 15 minutes. Let's start with the beginning of 25. So 25 is where the Lord calls Moses and says, listen, I need you to say this to the children of Israel. And in 3, he tells them, it's actually 3 through 7, he's explaining exactly what they're to bring. Mm-hmm. He doesn't just say bring whatever you want. He says, here's the list, checklist, bring these things. So in this list of items that we see, we understand the reason why he's very specific is because he's telling them how to create his house. He's going to let them build it. I mean, think about it. The Lord could have just built it for him and stuck it in there. There you go. There's my house. Come on in.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He's like, no, because again, it's a give and take. That's how marriage is, right?
Right.
He says, here's how. They provide that, and then he's going to provide his glory, his covering
Protection.
over them. Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, he provides every need that they do, just like a husband is to do for a wife.
Right.
He provides. But the dwelling place, it is customary that the wife is actually the one who's considered the builder of the house. Maybe not physically, but the home is from the motherly, the woman's perspective. I mean, think about it. They decorate.
Proverbs, huh?
Yes, it is Proverbs. They decorate it there. They're the heart of the home.
Yes.
Remember, if they're going to live in it, then they both have to be able to go into it.
Right.
So he says in 25:9, according to all that I show you, the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of its furnishing, making it exactly so. Which means that Moses is literally in the heavenly. Now here's the question. Is it temple or tabernacle? Because if he's to build it exactly as he saw it, it can't be the temple.
Right.
Now we know this from Hebrews, I believe it's 9, where it says that the tabernacle in which Yeshua built. So I'm going to say, speculation, whatever, that what Moses was actually in was not the temple of God. Because remember, Moses wasn't going to see that. Mm-hmm. But he was in the tabernacle in which Yeshua built. So we know that everything he's going to build must look like the original, right? Because again, it's the heavenly going to come down on earth. And everything that happens in the tabernacle and the temple is to represent the heavenlies. That's why that's why he's so concerned about what does come in and what doesn't come in, okay?
Right.
Is because you've got to be able to approach the Lord properly, just like in the heavenlies. That's why Yeshua can do so. And he talks about he did so in the heavenlies. Well, yeah, he did so in the heavenlies. We just have a shadow. Remember, a shadow is something that is cast off of an original.
Right.
So if this is the shadow, Colossians talks about the feast and all those things are a shadow of things to come. That means that there's the heavenly, it shadows here on earth, and this will come, which tells us we know at the end in Revelation 22 that it does come, right? We have where the Father and Son come and dwell among us themselves, not in a tabernacle or a temple, because they are the tabernacle and temple, and they come and dwell with us. So Moses has entered into the heavenly tabernacle, just like Yeshua does. Now Moses comes back, or is going to come back, with the blueprints. Now I want to address this because I think it's very relevant. A lot of times there's the thought process that the reason why we even have tabernacle or temple or anything is because of the sin of the golden calf. If it is in the order, because Moses goes up and he's getting all this, he's getting the way that the Lord wants to dwell with his people before the sin of the golden calf. We also know from this, because he says to bring, it hints here about Aaron, that Aaron is already supposed to be a high priest, even before the sin of the golden calf. Mm-hmm. So it was already, whether it was already understood they were going to do that, so he set it up here, or it was always his intention to dwell with us. It was always his intention to dwell with us. But
it's like the feast. They weren't permanently set up until they were out in the wilderness, but we see it all through Genesis and leading up.
Yeah. So there were these rehearsals before they knew they were quote unquote rehearsals. Yeah. Right. So that's a good point. That's a good way to look at this. So the first thing he presents, order is very important, is the ark. Mm-hmm. And we need to understand that the ark it's two pieces, okay? So in this picture that you're seeing, you see the bottom ark, and it is made of wood, acacia wood, and then it's covered inside and out with gold. Now the piece on the top, the seat of atonement, is pure gold. And the cherubim that are on top are literally pounded out of the same piece of gold. All right. And then if you see the two rods that are poles, these poles were to never come out of this, because they were always supposed to be ready to go. Just like when they ate the Passover lamb, their loins were girded, ready to go. Same idea. So that whenever the Lord calls, they're ready to pick it up and go. Right. Because nobody touches that. Okay. When you look at the way that the Lord sets things up, he first does the ark, okay? Mm-hmm. That's your heart. What's inside of it?
Right.
The Torah, okay? Or the commandments. And then next to it is the Torah. But the thing is, those are his word is what is the heart. Okay. Then the next thing you have is the table of showbread. And if you see here, there is a crown on the showbread, the top of the ark, and on also what will be the altar incense, but we don't discuss that in this week. But the showbread was to place 12 loaves of bread on it. And what we see right here is it's acacia wood, and it's covered in gold. And it also has the poles in order to carry it. The next piece of furniture is the menorah, the lampstand. And it was to be beaten out of one piece of gold, which is really phenomenal. Now, if you look at all the pieces, all the intricate detail that goes into this, it's amazing. Now, they say that it says that each letter of the alphabet, so the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, are actually on the menorah. Really? There's 3, 3, 3. And then the center one has 4 and 3, 3, 3. That's the way the letters went. So here's what's interesting. On the middle of the menorah, so it would be where the servant lamp that Yeshua is considered to be. It is actually the Yod, the Kuf, the Lamed, and the Mem in the middle of the branch. And listen to this. What it means is he will make them whole and complete. Yes. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
So in the middle,
love Hebrew.
I do too. So in the middle of the lamp, the one that represents Yeshua, you know, in Revelation, he talks about being in the midst of it, right?
Right.
Because he is that center. He's basically right there. Every time they go into the holy place, seeing the words that he's going to complete. He's going to be the one that makes us complete. In quick review, this week's Torah portion, we had the ark shown, which is the Holy of Holies, okay? We have the table of showbread, and we have the menorah, or the lampstand, okay? Then from there, we move, it also discusses what's going to cover it all. And what's covering it all is very specific, okay? And it said that it is to make the tabernacle echad, one.
Ah.
Then we see how we have the curtains and, you know, the 50 hooks and the different materials. And I want to just say, every time we see gold, it's purity. It represents the godly aspect. Silver represents blood, and bronze represents judgment. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, you have the walls around the dwelling place, which includes the Holy of Holies and the holy place. And those walls are gold. You see the picture right here. I mean, that is a sturdy wall. And under that, under the purity, is the sockets, these sockets of silver, which would represent the blood. So think about this. The entire holy place is based upon, or stands on the foundation of the blood of Yeshua. that allows the purity of the gold to hold in to make it one. Mm-hmm. I love that. So I just wanted you to get an idea of kind of what the things look like. So when you read this, you have a little more of a visual.
That always helps.
Yeah, it does. It helps you understand a little bit more because there's just so much more. So sometimes it just becomes, routine reading, but there's a lot of meat there. I wanted to talk about real quick the veil that has the cherubim versus the veil that doesn't. Between the Holy of Holies, where the ark is, and then the other things, there is a veil. And on that veil, there are cherubim. Because it's the idea of just like the Garden of Eden, okay? Remember where the Holy of Holies is, that is the closest to God you can get. The Garden of Eden. Who guarded the Garden of Eden? 2 cherubs. Okay, so you have the cherubim. Here you have the cherubim inside the tapestry. But you also have another tapestry, another veil that is from the outside going into the holy place, okay, where the showbread and the lampstand is. That veil has no cherub on it. It's there are 2 midrashes. One that says when Yeshua died, it's the veil where the cherubim were. That's the veil that tore. There are others that say no, it's just into the holy place that tore. I tend to lean a little more towards it was the one between the outer and going into the holy place, not the Holy of Holies. Because when Yeshua died, he did allow us entryway into the holy place. But remember, he hadn't brought his blood yet into the Holy of Holies. Therefore, we can't have entrance in there. I would think that would be immediate death to us.
Oh, yes. That would make sense because Israel is supposed to be a priest to the nations, right? Well, the priests were the ones allowed in the holy place.
Yes.
So now we're coming in and we're supposed to be a priest to the world.
Right.
With Israel, standing alongside them. So it would make perfect sense. He didn't make us a high priest. That's his job.
That's right. Because see, the priests don't go into the Holy of Holies.
Right.
Just that one.
Just the
Very
one.
good.
Yes.
I agree 100%. Ding, 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 ding. Once the Lord sets up the inside, the important part, our heart, right? Mm-hmm. The inside ark is our heart. Then we move into the soul, the mind, right? That's the holy place.
On the heart.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And then you move out to now, what's our body going to do? What are we going to do with this in our heart, in our mind? Now make our body do it. And that's what we see out here with the bronze aspect, the altar that's outside. It's of bronze because it's a judgment, because our actions require judgment. And let me say this.
And sacrifice.
Yes. And, I just thought of too, when going in, okay, so the veil that goes into the holy place, okay, where the bread and the lamp are, that has 5 pillars. Their sockets are not silver as the blood, it's bronze for judgment. He says, only you who entered through the door, right? So here, what you did out here, what actions you did at the altar,
yes,
is what is going to allow you to come through there.
And that's where you wash yourself too.
Yes, right before. And there's either no judgment,
right,
or there is judgment.
What side of the coin are you on?
Yeah, there's judgment no matter what. It's what side of the coin you fall on. Okay? So if your actions, your mitzvahs, if the way you walked was correct, then enter. Yes. Good and faithful servant, or enter in.
Yes.
If your actions and your mitzvahs are not, then it's, I don't know you.
Yeah.
I don't know you. But I said, Lord, Lord. I'm sorry, I don't know you. I don't recognize you because you don't look like me. And my bride and my body, obviously my body has to look like me, or else it's not my body.
Okay? Right.
I mean, that's basically what he's saying here. So here we have this earthly representation of what we seem to think is not important.
Right.
And it is exactly the body of the Lord. Therefore, it is the body of us. It is Israel as a whole.
And it just proves that we collectively make up the body.
Yes.
And not I'm the temple, you're the temple.
So
we're the tabernacle.
Right. When Paul talks about, you're the temple, that's plural you, not singular. It's not I'm. It's when 2 or more are gathered. Now we got 2 living stones helping to build that, right?
Right.
And think about it. We're not the temple yet, because at that point when Yeshua comes, the tabernacle, we are tabernacling as well in this tent of a body.
Right.
But eventually, when we move into eternity, we will no longer be tabernacling in this body. We will be a part of the living temple. We will be the stones within the stones that are building it. Now, on that, I want to say this. The Holy of Holies, okay, the Holy of Holies is a perfect square, 10 by 10 by 10. a cube, 10 by 10 by 10 by 10. It's a cube. It's a cube. Why is that important? Because New Jerusalem is a cube. And in eternity, New Jerusalem, the Father and Son both dwell there, and we get to dwell with them. Yes. That is when we will get to go into Holy of Holies. Yes. In New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem is literally a huge
Holy of Holies. It's the original Holy of Holies.
It is the original. Yes, I love it. This is really neat, too. When you realize that each piece of the furniture, represents Yeshua, and you think, well, I guess that's, okay, I'll buy it, sure. But Ezekiel 40 to 48, or actually 40 to 47, describes the temple that will be during the millennium, okay? Not eternity, but millennium. In that temple, it's so interesting. There's the ark there. There's the seat. But there's no furniture in the holy place. You know why? Because the living light, the menorah, the bread, and the altar of incense, which is where prayers go up, they're all Yeshua. He fulfills all those, and he's there. Therefore, there is no furniture in the temple. So that, to me, is even more of a testimony that he is each of those items. Thanks for joining us. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you on the flip side with the Brit Hadashah and Julie. Shalom.